Hello, everyone, and welcome to this conversation today, answering some of the most frequently asked questions and talking points when it comes to microbes in the petroleum industry. I'm your host, Tyler Kern. Thank you again so much for joining us for this episode of the show. Today, we're calling this conversation Microbes at Work Live. Now, joining me today are three expert guests from JGL Solutions. First, we have Mike Rhodes, Gulf Coast Area Manager. Mike Rhodes, thanks for being here.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We're also joined by Mike Giesen, Kansas Area Manager. We got the two Mikes. Mike Giesen, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And breaking the string of mics, we have Bill Lantz, the CEO of JGL Solutions. Bill, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So, guys, let's start off with what sounds like a basic question, but it's also, I think, a really important question, and that is, why microbes? Bill, kick us off. Why microbes? Why is this an important topic to talk about?
Microbes still are kind of new to the industry, even though we've been around a while. And more people are understanding the ability that we have using the microbes in many different areas in the oil field. And it's, we think, just the best option over what they currently have, which is basically chemicals and mechanical means to solve their problems.
So I think a good follow-up question for that is, what's the difference between using microbes and not using them? What types of effects can people see out in the field?
Yeah, there's obviously the sustainability side of it. All of our stuff's, not harmful to the environment, not toxic, not harmful to humans or animals. You can spill it in a river on the ground. It's completely safe. So you take that whole environmental sustainability side, and it's a big plus. But they actually work better than conventional methods, because a lot of times chemicals, they're using trying to mimic what nature does with different produced chemicals, naturally produced, and they're trying to go in and synthetically copy those and then market those individually. And the microbes that we have produce all of those. We have several strains, many strains that produce many different type chemicals, enzymes, things like that are all naturally occurring. They do it in situ, and it's just a lot more effective that way.
Mike, any follow-ups to what you heard from Bill?
I mean, I think that one of the things is that our microbial programs are in most cases less expensive and are a lot more beneficial, when doing our treatments or what they get.
So Mike Rhodes, How do you go? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, we it's a batch treatment versus chemical pumps and having to maintain the pumps, and we do a batch treatment. And operators in most oil companies like that, less to maintain.
So, Bill, how do you go about discussing how microbes work and the benefits with potential clients in a way that kind of lays it all out there for them, but doesn't get too technical or in the weeds? How do you talk to clients about this sort of thing?
Yeah, it's mostly addressing the problems that you have in the oil field. And for instance, paraffin, that's one. Currently there's paraffin solvents that try to dilute paraffin, to keep it stay in oil. Paraffin's just a waxy buildup that plugs oil wells. The microbes actually go in and change the paraffin to oil. So it's changed its whole structure. You don't see it back again in the tanks because it's now oil, not paraffin. That's one of the ways. A lot of their byproducts are very beneficial while they're doing that. Even like for scale, we're breaking down scales while also chelating and we're tying them up, not allowing scale to form. Chemicals use scale inhibitors that are doing that very thing. Well, the microbes do the same thing, but they also produce byproducts that break down existing scale, all in the same at the same time. It's a biological process with many things going on, and it's just more efficient than having to use separate chemicals for everything and things like that.
So, Mike Giesen, can you share some examples from customers who have made the switch over to you? What sorts of benefits are they seeing, and what kinds of reactions do you get, and what's the feedback?
Well, I'll give you, for instance, had an area where they were hot oiling a well once every 6 days,
which is quite an expense, basically 61 times a year. And we began our treatments and were able to take it to once every 4 to 6 months, which was a huge savings. Just on one well, it was basically like $35,000. Now, depending on how many you had that were relatively like that, you could save quite a large amount of money.
Mike Rhodes, what about you? What have you heard from customers who've made the switch and used JGL solutions? What kind of feedback do you get from them?
Man, my experience with customers, I mean, none of the customers I speak to have used them. So my experience, with customers, I don't have that experience, I guess I would say.
Sure. So, Bill, when the first customers first started using JGL solutions, what impact did they see in their operations and that sort of thing? Kind of give us some details there back when you first saw customers switching over to JGL solutions.
Right. A lot of things we targeted were saltwater disposals and water floods. We did producers as well, but we were really focusing on those two things. And water floods, for instance, water quality was a big deal. We went in and clean the water up, if you will. And chemicals do that, but most of theirs are designed to drop solids in the tanks. Ours actually remove solids. So not only do they improve water quality, they don't leave a big mess in the tanks and in the flow lines and injection lines. And it's a big difference. So when we come in after a chemical company's been on it a few years, it's a big mess to clean up. Microbes, once they get it clean, it stays clean. So that's one of the things they noticed. There's also some tax credits may want to get into later, but there's some benefits using the microbes in water floods, and you get some tax credits to do it. So another thing they do, and the MEOR side of that is just that we go out in the reservoir and release residual oil, which on average is about a 15% positive response over on the produced side. So a lot of positives there on that water flood side, and to use chemicals to do all that would be many, many times more expensive than what we do, and I don't think is efficient.
Absolutely. And, you mentioned those tax credits and tax exemptions. That's another part that we wanted to discuss here on the broadcast today. Bill, how do customers start the process of getting those tax exemptions and tax credits? Kind of talk us through that process.
Yeah, states are different. There's some states that are a lot more liberal with it and some that aren't. Texas is one that we've done a lot of water floods in. Every one we've done has got approved, but there's an approval process. You file a form with the Railroad Commission, they approve the process, and then they're waiting to see response. They don't automatically give it to you. You have to see a positive response on the produced side. They give you 5 years to see a response from when you start the process. Once you see the response, you file another form, and then they kind of give you the start date of when the response started, and they'll give you the tax credit from then going forward for 10 years, as long as you stay on the program. So it's a substantial amount. They'll give you 50% credit on all the oil produced, not just incremental. I bring that up because most operators are used to an incremental tax credit that you get on these older floods. It has to do with a rule back in 1990, but when you use our tertiary system, it applies to the old and new systems, and so you get it on either one. So it's substantial. It's 50% of the severance tax. Texas is 4.6, so it's 2.3% of all the oil produced in that field, for 10 years. So it's definitely significant. That's one. There's others. I think Mississippi, you just get the full severance tax credit, and all you have to do is use the microbes in the injection system. Kansas, we just pioneered the first tax credit applied that I know of for microbes, and was approved. It was just the timing of it was bad, because there's a veto power by the head tax guy, and he vetoed it due to oil prices back when we got hit a few years back. About the time we proved that thing out, they got a significant response, and it got approved, but we didn't get the tax credit yet because he's got the veto going. But it's in place, and they approved it, and they approved the technology. So it's a matter of time, especially with the oil prices where they are. I think the company that we're still working for in that water flood is probably going to reapply or petition to get that veto removed. But, there's some, the other ones are not so good, but, you just got to check each state and see what they have.
Mike Giesen, that's right there in your backyard, right? Being the Kansas area manager. Do you have anything to add to what Bill was talking about there, just as far as tax exemptions and tax credits go?
Oh, I just know that the actual program that we were doing for that producer, we've seen some very positive results that, it has given us the opportunity that we are still 4 years later, still treating for them.
Yeah, Mike, you said producer, you meant water flood?
Yeah, water flood, I'm sorry.
Yeah, won't you tell what's happened in that water flood, a little history on it, because of that was some pretty bad water there, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, there was a lot of iron sulfide and just scale buildup along with paraffin and different things. They saved on pump repairs on their triplex pumps just because of the amount of solids that we were removing out of the water, as well as cleaning up their injection lines and their injection wells. They seen substantial pressure decreases and were able to increase their injection water, and just not near as many flow line leaks or flow lines plugging because of the amount that we were able to clean up for them. In one case, they had about most time 30% plugging or more, and we on a 4-inch line, and we took it down to just where there was just a film when they did finally actually had to cut it open. So seen some really good results from what we were doing.
So guys, do you treat every oil field application? Can you kind of talk us through that as well?
Go ahead, Mike.
Well, we can treat for just about anything and then some of what chemicals can do and be more beneficial overall. We have, special blends that we can utilize to treat, with, and where chemicals, they have to use a different chemical for every different issue that they find. So, and with that comes a substantial cost, while ours is just going to be the same regardless of what we do because of our blends.
Yeah, and we're a little limited on the really high volume applications like you see offshore. I know Mike's expertise is in that. We've got him here sitting here with us and doesn't have a lot of experience with us yet, but he does have a lot of experience with chemicals, so he knows kind of what they do, and now he's seeing what the microbes do, and I think it's surprising him a little bit on what we're able to do. So I don't know, Mike, you might want to speak to that a little bit, just the little bit you've been here, you've seen.
Yeah, microbes, they're moving and going against the flow and getting in crevices where chemical can't get into. We're seeing them reduce TPH, benzene. Chemicals can't do that, and they're moving and growing and multiplying and reducing some toxic levels.
So guys, what is the value of having a lab, and what are some of the lab tests that you regularly perform? Can you kind of talk us through that a little bit and tell us a little bit more about that value of being able to perform tests on a regular basis?
Yeah, we have our own lab. We do a lot of water analysis. It's important when we go to a system to check the hostility, if you will, the environment we're getting in. Some are harsher than others to us. I've yet to be in one that we can't sustain our colonies in, but we do need to be able to test that and determine that it's a good environment, and does kind of make a difference on amount of microbe that we use on that system and the frequency which we apply them. That's part of the formula. There is a formula using our microbes, and it's has to do with the retention time. It has to do with that environment. What we're trying to do is get enough microbes in there often enough to maintain about 1 million cells per milliliter of fluid at all times. So there is some testing that we need to be able to, to monitor. We also, it's typical water analysis you see chemical companies use. We're testing the type of scales that are likely to form, how corrosive the water is, how, much chlorine's in it, things like that. We, on our injection systems, water floods, disposals, we use millipore filtration analysis, using a very small micron filter to make sure we catch all the solids going downhole. And by doing that, you can identify them and see what's exactly going there. You can even target, microbes if things change. You can target that particular solid that we're trying to address. So it is important to have them, and you get trends that you can follow along. We get reports to our customers and kind of document what we already know is happening, but, you can see it as time goes on. With the microbes, we're a long-term solution. They're not the fastest thing, but they're very efficient. So, over time, you're going to see these things. If you can document with tests and show a cleaning or improvement as you go along, it goes a long ways with customers.
So, Bill, do you have a fancy white lab coat that you wear in the lab and that sort of thing as well?
Yeah, it's got a little dirty. It's not white anymore, but I have one.
That's what happens over the years, I guess. Yeah. If it's doing its job, it's probably not as white as it used to be.
That's
So
right.
So guys, there's been a lot of discussion over the last several months about the current cost of oil and gas prices, right? Can you use some of your expertise and knowledge in the marketplace to provide some context around what we're seeing as far as oil and gas prices right now, specifically in the United States, but around the world? I'm sure that there are a lot of factors here at play.
Yeah, obviously the last year has been quite the struggle, for every operator, especially service companies, of which we are one. Besides the oil prices going down, customers, you have no access to them because of this virus we've had. So, we're, got to get in front of people to tell them what we are able to do, and that we haven't been able to do that. So with the oil prices, operators literally shutting their fields in. Obviously, you're not applying microbes if the field is shut in. So your revenue takes a hit. I guess the good thing is the oil prices have come up. Doors have opened. We're able to get in now. The fear of the virus has went away. It's pretty much, and so we're able to get in and see people, tell them what we're doing, and we're already seeing some growth this year, and that's good. That's good to see. Seems like I hear, oil's going to $100 a barrel. Myself, I would rather not go that high, but if it would stay where it is right now, I think we'd all be happy. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for.
Mike, any follow-up to Bill's comments there, just on what you've seen from the marketplace as far as oil and gas prices?
No, reality of it is thankful that we're getting some higher prices. For one, what a lot of people don't realize is, they've got lease operating expenses, lifting costs, so to speak, that they have to get so much just to be able to break even. And what this does is it opens the door for everybody as far as being able to, maintain their wells, even do exploration and continuing the process. A lot of people don't understand that, It's not just the effect of vendors such as JGL Solution and others that this affects. It's even the tourist, like out in Red River, for instance. They get a lot of vacation people from people that work in the oil field. So when the prices are lower, it affects a lot of people. So at this point, it's not only helping JGL, but it's also helping a lot of others to, get back to where they need to be.
Absolutely. And, one of the other things that we wanted to discuss here today was sustainability, right? And that being a big part of what JGL is all about. And it's something that we've touched on at this point. But Bill, tell us a little bit more about the importance for JGL to create sustainable solutions for this marketplace.
Yeah, it just seems like government, states, local are more aware of environmental issues and toxicities of different chemicals and just the oil field in general, and so they're looking harder at that, and that's one of obviously our advantage because all our stuff is completely safe, harmless, but it also takes away harmful toxins like TPH, total petroleum hydrocarbons. State of Texas want those below 10,000 parts per million. And we're well able to get it below that easily. And BTEX is another one, not just in the oil field, but that particular group of contaminants is something that's monitored by the federal government as well. And that one, that whole group are easily able to break down below the required limits. So whether you have a, oil spill around a well or maybe in a dike around a tank batteries, where you get oil spills in the oil field, we're able to go in and help get those to the levels that we need.
Mike Giesen, I wanted to ask you about being a previous customer of JGL before you became an employee. So when you were serving as the field superintendent, what microbe treatments were you using and how were they applied? Kind of give us a little bit more from the other side, from the client side of things.
Okay, well, Bill approached us about treating our saltwater disposals down there in Southeast Kansas for the company that I work for. And, it mentioned that we would be able to eliminate our chemicals that we were using. So it'd be a savings there of, both, on the corrosion and scale side. Plus, we'd be able to help minimizing the solids in the water and helping with skim oil to where we would be able to actually skim it over and keep it versus just letting it go down the well, and minimizing acid jobs that we were having to do on a regular basis. So, initially they came in, we started treating in the suction tanks there at the sites, cleaning them up, which helped minimize the amount of times our guys were having to clean their filters and check them on a daily basis, which actually gave them more opportunity just to go out and look for gas, because we had a lot of coal bed methane wells that they were taking care of. So they were able to focus on their job, not just focus on taking care of the saltwater disposal. It just made life so much easier because of what the microbes did overall.
Fantastic stuff. So, guys, as we begin to wrap up our conversation today, I wanted to get any closing thoughts that any of you had. Anything that you want to leave people with that you want them to know about JGL Solutions. Bill, let me kick things over to you first. What do you want to leave people with here today after viewing this live discussion?
Yeah, just that for one, there's a lot of misconception about microbes. A lot of people don't understand, even in the oil field. And we do PowerPoint presentations, technical one that isn't that long, 20 to 30 minutes. And we'd be glad to do that for anybody that's interested in seeing more about what we do and understanding how our microbes work. I find that when we're able to get in front of some engineers and executives and field with that knowledge, it helps them get rid of a lot of myths that are out there and misinformation, and makes them understand the application and not where they're not afraid of it, where they're excited to try it. So something they could look forward to with us, and just contact us and we can set up a time and set one of those up for you.
Mike Rhodes, any final thoughts here today? Anything you want to leave people with about JGL or anything else?
Yeah, the companies out there, give Mike Rhodes a chance. I heard JGL Solutions. I'm new here, but they base their company, with customers giving them the worst well or the worst saltwater disposal, and that's how JGL proves themselves. They can clean it up, with some patience, and they can get the job done. And environmental friendly and not a toxic chemical hazardous to people or the environment. So it's a good positive thing.
And Mike Giesen, bring us home. Put a bow on this one for us. Give us any final thoughts you have.
Well, I think the one thing about microbes is I think we're out to help with the longevity of the well and get the most for the producer. And our microbes can do that, as well as one of the things that I think people need to keep in mind is, not all microbe companies are the same, just like not all chemical companies are the same. You could start out with chemical company A and end up with chemical company Z before you find the one that you might think will do what they say they'll do with their services, their prices, and just overall experiences with them. And microbes are the same way. More times than not, I'll hear when I'll go in to talk to somebody, they'll say, well, I've tried them, they didn't work. And I was like, well, you didn't try us. You didn't try JGL Solutions. We do things different there, which can make us, superior to the other companies that you've done. And they just need to keep an open mind that that's the case. We can, just because you've tried one doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It just means that maybe they didn't have the after the sale service, or the treat, the way that we do to make it be successful.
That's a great point. Bill, where can people go if they want to find more information, or if they want to reach out with questions, comments, concerns, anything along those lines? What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, probably go to the website, www.jglsolutions.com. A lot of information on that. And I think LinkedIn, there's a lot of stuff. You can call us, 214-708-3899. Any of those ways, I think they'll get what they're looking for.
There you go. Lots of different ways to reach out and to get in touch with JGL Solutions. Website, social media, old-fashioned, giving them a phone call. Any of those will get the job done for you to get more information, to get your questions answered, and to learn more about JGL Solutions and the work that they're doing with microbes. Guys, thank you so much for joining me here for this live discussion today. Mike Rhodes, Mike Giesen, and Bill Lantz. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise today.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And everyone, thank you for tuning in as well. We appreciate it very much. Of course, make sure to get in touch with JGL Solutions if you have any questions, and stay tuned for more content just like this. We'll be back soon with more from JGL to continue to give the market insights and expertise in these areas. But until then, for my fantastic panel today, I've been your host, Tyler Kern. Thanks so much for joining us.